So I did something this past weekend. I vended a show for the first time and just wanted to jump on here and sort of recap that experience and, just provide a few takeaways from the perspective of a first time vendor. Some things that I want to remind myself to do, some things maybe I want to do better in the future. And just, like I said, just sort of talk through that the whole weekend and kind of that general experience. My name's Brad, back in the booth, aka my car. So basically the whole idea kind of started. I had a buddy that was vending at the show. He had purchased a table before I did, and I was already planning on going to the show. But if you go to the show and you're not a vendor, then your only expectation basically is that you are going to sell anything that you would be able to sell to a vendor. Most vendors are only going to take 80%, 85, maybe 90, depending on what the item is. But the general expectation is 80%. So I kind of just rationalized to myself going ahead and purchasing my own table. I figured, what's the point in taking a few items, whatever, I felt like packing in the car and having to go up to various vendors, and I would, obviously go there to buy as well. But, when you interact with vendors, you ask them maybe if you're buying or will you accept trades or whatever. So I would just have to reference all the stuff that was in my car and say, or show them pictures on my phone and say, is this anything you'd be interested in? Have to walk clear back out to the car, get it, yada, yada, yada. The whole routine. So I just kind of rationalized all that to myself and was like, I don't know, let's give it a shot. So basically I just took things out of my personal collection, things that, I just wanted to try and sell, to try and get some, take some profits. We're in a boom right now. Selling makes a lot of sense. And so I just decided to go ahead and get a hold of the guy that was running the show, the promoter, who was really awesome, by the way. The communication was spot on. He told us exactly what we needed to know, where to be, when to be there. He was very thorough, and that was a huge help. And so I signed up, and I actually requested to have a table next to my buddy who had already previously reserved a table. And that was, we were able to work that out. So that made, things a little more comfortable. But anyway, so in the weeks leading up to the show, basically I did a lot of preparation. I might have over prepared, but honestly, looking back, I feel like it was worth all the time that I invested in the weeks leading up. I made 2 binders out of a lot of sort of bulk hollows and promos and things that I had, because as I would find out, those binders were basically the majority of the transactions that I had made for the weekend. I had everything priced from, and that was the other thing, was I actually took the time I bought a pricing gun, and I took the time to actually put price tags on all the penny sleeves. On the outside of the penny sleeves, I priced, basically anything I could put a price tag on that I wasn't putting where I wouldn't have to put it on the original manufacturer packaging. Like if I was able to put the item inside of something, I would put a price tag on the outside of that, as opposed to slapping my price tag on the sealed product or whatever. I assume most sealed collectors don't want, a random price tag stuck to their item. So, but for the singles, like I had said, I went through, put a bunch of reverse hollows, promos, hollows, EXs, Vs, GXs, things of that nature. And I put them into 2 separate binders. I priced everything. I actually had pricing starting as low as like 20 cents on some things, which was maybe a little unnecessary, but I actually did get a couple comments from a couple buyers that they actually appreciated that. They said a lot of people don't do that, and they wanted cards for their decks, or they wanted cards for their, to complete their sets, and they appreciated the fact that I was selling 20-cent cards for 20 cents. You know what I mean? And so I think I would do that again. I took change. I stopped at the bank, got some smaller bills, and then I just took a bag of change, and I made change for people that needed change, and they were fine to pay 20 cents for a card and have me give them some change back. Like, they didn't mind that at all. So I made those binders. I bought a tablecloth. I bought a display case that I ended up putting my higher end singles, my $20 plus raw cards I ended up putting in there. Some loose packs went in there. Things of that nature. I put in the display case. The second day I ended up buying a shelf that I put behind me for sealed products. And so basically, my number one takeaway is prepare everything, price everything, and I don't know that you can really over prepare. Like I said, looking back, I think that all the effort I put in ahead of time was worth it, because it made the table more presentable. Obviously, when people are walking past, they want to be able to see prices. You don't, as a buyer, as a seller, I don't think you want the ownership to be on the buyer to have to ask every single little thing on your table, how much is this? So I think the buyer appreciates it, and as a seller, you're going to get more engagement if your stuff's well priced and visible. So like I said, I don't think you can over prepare. The other thing that kind of went into the preparation would be actually having an inventorying everything. I just used Collector, and yes, I literally put every 20-30 cent single into my Collector app that I put into those binders, because I don't know, I'm kind of meticulous, and I wanted to be able to track everything that I sold, what I sold it for, and then be able to remove it from my inventory. Like I said, I'm pretty meticulous about that. I know some people probably wouldn't go to that length, or if you were doing it far more often than maybe just my one-off show, maybe you wouldn't do it that way, but I think I probably would, just because like I said, I'm a little more particular in that fashion. But yeah, you definitely want to have some sense of what you have there on hand, whether you're listing it out, whether you keep like an Excel spreadsheet, use Collector, whatever, because you're going to have people that are going to ask you, do you have X, Y, or Z card? You're not going to be able to display every single thing. Maybe you can display every single thing, I don't know, but like we actually had, I put out what I thought I wanted out, and then I had a box and a couple binders behind the table. And so if somebody asked about something that they were looking for, or if they said, hey, I'm a Psyduck fan, then I could look directly, I could pull Collector up in my hand and say, I actually have a couple Psyducks in this box. Do you want to take a look at them? I had people ask me for specifically, like, what kind of Gym Heroes cards do you have? And I don't own any high-end Gym Heroes cards, but I had a few of the uncommons and commons and stuff like that in a box. And so I was able to pull those out and show her the Gym Heroes cards I had, and she ended up buying a few of them. And so you just want to be able to quickly reference everything that you have, your entire inventory. It's going to be more helpful to you. It's going to be more helpful to your buyer as well. I guess the second sort of takeaway would be to have a variety. The only thing I wish I would have done differently in terms of having a variety is I wish I would have actually had more lower end or cheaper loose packs. Everything that I had as far as loose packs, I had like a few. I had like some Cosmic Eclipse, XY Evolutions, Hidden Fates, Evolving Skies, stuff like that. But those are $45, $50, $60 packs. You know what I mean? And not everybody's really looking to pay that. So for people who just want to come in and rip a few packs, all I could really offer them was I had a Journey Together booster bundle, but that's 6 packs, so you're having to buy 6 packs. Or I had like some 3-pack blisters, some poster collections and stuff like that. So the minimum that they could buy from me if they were looking for something on the lower end was 3 packs. So maybe in the future, I'm going to get a dispenser or something like that and have more just individual loose packs, whether that means I have to break down some of the stuff that I currently have, or whether that means I can buy some over time, whatever that looks like. But I'd like to be able to offer individual like $7, $8, $10 packs, because I think people are looking for that. But back to my original point, have a variety. Those, like I said, those binders with those more inexpensive singles, that was the majority of what of the transactions that we had, was like $1, $2, $8 cards, not your higher end stuff, which that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people, unless you're at like a really huge show, and even then it's probably not a foregone conclusion, but like most people at these smaller local shows are not looking to spend $1,000 on a sealed box, or $400 on one raw card. So you need to have variety. And so we had the binders, we had like I said, we had poster collections, 3-pack blisters, we had I had one booster box, I had several ETBs, I had an ultra premium collection from Celebrations. So it just kind of something at each sort of price point, and like I said, if you can do that, obviously you can only sell what you have available to sell, but I think if you have a variety, if you can come up with a variety of different things, then you're just broadening your buyer pool, basically. The other thing, the third thing that I kind of came up with was, make it presentable. To that point, just making sure everything was like orderly. Like I said, we bought for the second day, we bought that shelf that is just like a 6-foot shelf that snapped together real quick. That helped a lot, because I was able to get the sealed stuff, the bigger boxes, off of the table and put them behind me. A lot of people do that, but at some of these shows that I've been to, you're a little more limited on space. Thankfully, this one that I chose to actually be a vendor, we had plenty of room behind us, and so having a shelf back there really made a lot of sense. And it was like it was a $20 plastic shelf that we bought that morning when the hardware store opened, or the home improvement store opened. So it was that was really handy, and it just makes it really nice and presentable. You want your items easy to be able. You want people to be able to spot your items from a ways away, and then obviously when they actually approach your table, you want everything kind of laid out and merchandised well, so that it's easy for them to see what you have. And most vendors are going to do it that way. I think. I've seen at some shows a few times where, you could tell that the person didn't really put a lot of effort into their display, but it is what it is. I mean, you can only do what you can do, but at the same time, the more presentable you can make it, the better off you're going to be, because like I said, the main thing that I felt from just a merchandising standpoint or just aesthetics standpoint was you don't want to have the buyer, you don't want the buyer to like have to constantly ask you for stuff. And I know I said that a little bit ago, but like, just the easier you can make it to go through, the better, the more comfortable of a transaction it's going to be, the more engagement you're going to get. I mean, that's just how it is. So you just got to kind of put yourself in the buyer's shoes. What would you want to see if you were approaching your table? So the other thing too that really helped, being that, especially since it was my first show, was I had help. I usually work on Saturdays, and since it was a holiday weekend, I had that day off, and that's kind of how this all came together. But my wife was also available that weekend, and she helped me tremendously. If it wasn't for her, honestly, I would have felt like I was way in over my head, especially starting out on Saturday. Just having somebody help carry items, help set up the shelf, help stretch the tablecloth. When we did have a transaction, like, she basically took down, noted what we sold it for, and then at the end of the weekend, I went through her list, and that's when I updated my collector. Just stuff like that, an extra set of eyes and an extra set of hands, just to help engage with people, and keep an eye on things in general. We didn't have any issues at this show, but in general, card shows, you hear all the time about things getting lifted off of tables because you have too many people standing there that you're working with, and you turn your head for a second, something gets lifted and it's gone. One of the things that I heard from a different channel, another recommendation, which we did not do, and I might in the future, is have like a camera, turn your phone around, mount your phone, and actually have your camera like recording the whole time you're there. That, I don't know how feasible that would be for me, because like I said, I was using my phone for inventory and stuff like that. But if you have a separate camera that can just record while you're set up, while the show's going on, that might be a benefit, especially if you're by yourself. But like I said, I had help, and it worked out tremendously. And the next time I do this, hopefully I can have help again, because it changed the whole prospect of the weekend, just having somebody there. So you don't realize how you never know how busy things are going to get. And I mean, Saturday, I personally stepped away from the table one time to run to the bathroom. I mean, that's how busy we were just on Saturday. On Sunday, I actually did have a little bit of time, and I said, hey, do you mind if I go browse a little bit, because I haven't had a chance to even look. And so I was able to step away from the table on Sunday. But yeah, so having help was a huge advantage, to a huge contributor to just how successful the weekend went. And then kind of to piggyback off of that, make sure you're engaging with your prospective buyers, with the people that are there. Don't be playing on your phone. Don't have your head down. Don't be bashful. Engage. Even if they're not buying from you, have some conversations. Just talk about the hobby. I talked to a bunch of people about their collections. We shared stories about, the cards we pulled and so on and so forth. And, that's what makes it fun. But that engagement is what's going to obviously result in, why you're there, and that's to sell stuff. But kind of beyond that, engagement is, ask them what they're looking for. Can I help you look for something? Like I said, you've already got your inventory updated on your phone. You're checking your inventory, things like that. If there's something that they're looking at, and I'll get to this here in a little bit, but when, some of the times sometimes you'll rattle off the price on something, and, obviously the market's booming right now, so prices are up. If they, if they're a little apprehensive about the price, tell them that offer to find a recent comp, or, do you have anything that you can trade? I could give you a little bit of credit towards it, or something, just whatever. But just be engaging and be willing to negotiate. But first and foremost, just go out and talk to people, build some relationships and have some fun. So I guess we're at number 6 now. Take care of the buyers, like they're your priority. They're the reason you're there. I mean, everybody, obviously, like, you're set up to sell. You want to make money. Like, yeah, I get it. But you're not going to make money if you're not taking care of the people that are the customers at the show. Like, it kind of goes without being said, but I said it anyway. Just take care of them. Don't price your stuff above market. That's ridiculous. Like, find a good comp, set the price, and go from there. And honestly, like, if hopefully you have the room in your, hopefully you have it in your margins. You're liquid enough that you can find a recent comp and match that recent comp. Because, I mean, the fact is, if they don't buy it from you, they're going to go shop somewhere else, or they're going to go home and they're going to get on eBay, and the odds of them finding that same thing cheaper is very, very good. These are mass-produced pieces of shiny cardboard and mass-produced, sealed boxes of cardboard. So, like, if they're not shopping around, I mean, you should expect that they're going to shop around, I guess is what I should say. So, I mean, like, do what you can do to take care of them right there on the spot. And then, they'll come back and work with you maybe later down the road. I mean, I had multiple people circle back around to my table for a second, a third time, or we completed a transaction and then we turned around before they walked away and we did something else, and so just take care of the people that take the time to come up to your table, especially the kids. Like, you have got to take care of the kids. Do not screw the kids over. Be upfront and show them, where you're getting your pricing from. When they offer you a trade, show them where you're getting your values from, how you're valuing their trade. Like, if you're going to be 100%, I mean, you should be 100% transparent, but you should be 100% transparent, especially, and take the time, the additional time to work with kids. Because, like, I mean, I don't know, that's just like the scummiest thing I can think of, is taking advantage of a kid, regardless if their parents there with them or not. But surprisingly, there was a lot of kids that, the parents, I assume, just kind of turned them loose or whatever, that had their own money. And I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I was, like, out here, like, ripping off kids, man. So, like, none of this is worth, like, giving a kid a bad experience, because you want them to have good experiences in the hobby, because that's how we continue to grow, and like I said, especially like as a dad, I can't imagine like just, doing scummy things to like get money from a kid. Like that's just crazy to me. So, like I said, take care of your buyers, take care of especially the kids. And, when a kid buys something off of you, like I was, give them something for free. Like, I had a whole tin full of the coins that come out of the blister packs and stuff. Those little plastic metallic coins, whatever. I said, hey, take some coins. Like, take a couple coins with you too, or like, you want to make a deal on this card, like you can get this card for free or whatever. Like, I don't know, man. I just wanted to make sure that they were all happy and taken care of and satisfied with their experience. So the kind of involved or kind of parallel to the last two that I mentioned with engaging customers and taking care of customers, is don't say no to whenever you're offered the option to buy something from someone or to trade with someone. Obviously, like don't make a deal that doesn't benefit all parties. Make a good deal. But when I say don't say no, what I mean is when they approach, and a lot of times that might be the first thing that they ask is, do you buy or do you do trades? If you automatically say, no, I'm really just here to sell this weekend or whatever, well, they're gone. And you didn't even take the opportunity to kind of look at what they had to offer. So, take the time, go through what they have, and you might find something. I mean, like I explained earlier, a lot of our transactions were with those lower end, cheaper singles. I mean, if you go through their binder and there's a couple cheap IRs or cheap promo cards or whatever, I mean, you can use that to say, like, I could give you a little bit of credit if you trade me this or that or whatever, and then you can just turn around and put that out, for sale in your own inventory. And so, it's beneficial for both parties then, because they were able to get a little bit of credit towards something they really wanted, and you were able to expand your inventory for the show. And I can't tell you how many times it worked out that just like that, where I did make a trade or a partial trade and put the item out, and I actually sold it later on. So, it obviously benefited me to take the time to go through what they had, because I was able to then turn around and offer that to somebody else. So, at the end of the day, you as long as it's a good deal for the buyer and it's a good deal for you as the vendor, if it's a good, fair, reasonable thing to do, then I think it's probably in everybody's best interest to go ahead and just make a deal and negotiate a little bit, and then everybody wins. And those are the best kind of deals. So that was really all I had as far as just like takeaways and sort of lessons learned and what have you. But overall, the weekend was incredible. We had so much fun, and it's really something that we're looking. I've been looking ever since we got home from that show. I've been looking for the next one, because I definitely want to do that again. And because my goal is to, like I said, take some profits from the collection that I've built. But also, there's things in my collection that I would like to take and be able to transfer that money towards something else. There's cards that I want, there's items that I want that I can't just see myself just paying cash out of my, like just earning a paycheck and taking money out of my everyday funds to go purchase. So what my best option now, what I'm left with is take my current collection and use those funds and purchase something else that I want now, something else that has come along since. So anyway, like I said, we're looking to do it again. And if you have any questions or anything, want a little bit more perspective than what I provided here, leave them down in the comments, and I'll be happy to address it. So everybody have a good one. Thanks.